Welcome to Gamers Without Borders. I am now joined by the head of campaigns for UNHCR MENA, Raefah Makki. First things first, I want to ask you, how are you?
I'm perfect. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. It's amazing to see all of the great work that's been going into Gamers Without Borders up to this point. And UNHCR does so much incredible work all over the globe. In your own words, could you please describe how UNHCR is changing the world?
Well, can I start first by thanking you and Gamers Without Borders for this incredible opportunity. It's really wonderful that we get this chance to talk more about our work, the life-saving work we do. Well, of course, we say that each organization does its own work and mandate to protect the rights and human rights of people around the world. UNHCR mainly leads the international action to protect people who are forced to flee. Whether they are forced to flee outside their country or inside their country because of wars, conflicts, natural disasters. Any kind of movement that people are forced to do because of these reasons that I mentioned, UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, we lead this international action to protect refugees, forcibly displaced communities, and we provide life-saving assistance, including shelter, especially at the start when families are crossing the borders or moving from one place to another inside the country, because at that point people need everything. So we provide shelter, food, water, and medical care for people who are forced to flee conflict and persecution or the reasons I mentioned, like natural disasters. And most importantly, UNHCR actually helps provide these communities with important documentation to access basic services and basic, necessities. So we provide them with documentation, as I mentioned, depends on which country they are in, just to make sure they have a legal document or the legal status to be able to access the services that I mentioned. In addition to that, we defend the right to reach safety and help them find a place to call home so that they can rebuild their lives. So we also offer long-term solutions with countries to improve and monitor refugee and asylum laws and policies, ensuring human rights are upheld. So in many cases as well, UNHCR helps people find a new home and we have a huge resettlement program as well for people who have the chance to resettle to a new country if they're not actually able to go back to their home country. So this is, in a nutshell, our work. And we were established by the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1950 in the aftermath of the Second World War to help the millions of people who had lost their homes. Today, we work in 137 countries, and unfortunately, we have over than 103 million people displaced worldwide. To tell you the truth, UNHCR was not supposed to be there after the Second World War, but because of the ongoing conflicts happening around the world and, of course, the continuous conflicts and problems ruling our world, we had to stay because we're going to be there until there is no refugee or displaced person. So this is, in a nutshell, how we do our work and why we're there as an agency.
Wow. Incredibly vital work for sure. I mean, let's focus in a little bit. Let's focus on your role at UNHCR. What does your day-to-day look like?
It's interesting because I personally cover a lot of aspects, and my role mainly actually focuses on creating campaigns that can be compelling so we can actually bring the refugee cause closer to people's hearts and minds. We know for a fact that the refugee cause is quite a complex cause because it's not an easy cause to deal with, on a day-to-day basis. It's hard for people sometimes to understand the political, background behind it. We know for a fact that most of the, emergencies that happen due to conflicts or wars, sometimes we feel that it has a political background, and sometimes people might not be able to see this kind of bridge between the human story and the cause. For us, my team, our aim is to really create campaigns, tell the story so that we can actually speak to people's hearts and minds and make the refugee cause closer to them, change the narrative in a way or another that we really look at the numbers, not only the numbers of refugees, but the faces behind the numbers, so that we know that 103 million people is a huge number, but behind these numbers, there are people, faces, dreams, ambitions. So my role is to really create campaigns, especially digital campaigns, so that we can bring the stories of refugee and displaced communities closer to the audiences in the region, and try as much as possible bridge this, opportunity between people who want to help and people who are in need. So this is in a nutshell. I work on campaigns, mainly fundraising and advocacy, and I have an amazing team that work with me who can pull this work off. And this is in a nutshell. And I feel privileged that I'm able to do this and be able to help, as much as I can.
Glad to hear that you and your team work so tightly together and create all this amazing work and these amazing campaigns, because they truly make a difference. And as you know, Gamers Without Borders has been operating for a number of years now. So why is Gamers Without Borders important to UNHCR?
Well, honestly, it's one of the most exciting projects that we are working on right now. Why? Because it really brings the new audience, the new generation closer to the mission and mandate that I mentioned. We're very proud of this partnership, as the words, because Gamers Without Borders is the largest charitable esports and gaming festival. And when we were, starting with this partnership, everybody was excited about it, because it's really defining how the future of giving, the future of doing good is gonna look like. It's really this generation, the generation that is changing the way we tell the story. So our partnership with Gamers Without Borders allows UNHCR to raise awareness and much needed funds for one of the most complicated and largest humanitarian crises, which is displacement. In addition to that, it helps us to reach new audiences, gamers from around the world. To be honest with you, we never thought that at this point we might be able to do that. And with the help of Gamers Without Borders, we were able to create a new space for us, UNHCR, and for the people we serve, refugees and displaced communities, to be able to have this platform to help more, one initiative at a time. And with this initiative, it's very crucial for us. We are really proud and privileged to be part of this, to partner with a platform that has giving back at the core of its mission. So super proud, and we really hope that this partnership can last for a long time for the benefit of refugee and displaced families worldwide.
Yeah, we hope so too, for sure. I think that every year Gamers Without Borders focuses its efforts towards different global issues, but this year it's simply a donation to keep progressing, to achieve more as an organization. So what can you tell me that UNHCR is focusing on this year in particular?
So if I want to start telling you how the scope of the work we do is wide, because I mentioned the number of displaced people around the world is over 103 million people. So what we focus on, of course, emergencies on top of emergencies, they are driving new displacement. And now we're just witnessed what happened recently in Sudan. So usually what we do is that our core mandate is ongoing protection and aid efforts around the globe, such as the Syria situation, Yemen, Rohingya, Venezuela, and Afghanistan. We're also there on the ground when emergencies hit and take place, such as natural disasters, as I mentioned, and climate-caused displacement occur, such as the earthquakes that happened in Turkey and Syria. And the floods in Pakistan and drought in the Horn of Africa. This year, we will continue supporting those displaced due to ongoing crises around the world, in addition to raising the alarm and supporting who are being forcibly displaced through new conflicts and emergencies such as Sudan. In addition, of course, with a big focus on climate change and fragility, which has already displaced millions of people. So our job is around the clock to be able to maintain the needs on the ground with the ongoing emergencies that are taking place. We usually respond within 24 hours when an emergency takes place, a displacement emergencies or a situation resulting from a displacement. So what we do is we respond immediately. So this year, our focus, of course, is to continue responding to all these emergencies that are taking place, whether new emergencies like Sudan or the protracted emergencies that have been there, unfortunately, for a long time. In addition, of course, to a huge focus on climate change and displacement caused by climate change.
It's truly staggering the amount of amazing work that UNHCR is doing. But before before you go, I would like to ask, we're kind of asking all the charities this year to give a message to not only all of the gamers who are competing in our tournament, but also gamers all around the world. So what would your message be to them?
First, start by thanking them for, first, the gamers who are participating in Gamers Without Borders for really driving change in our community and using their talent to do something that is beneficial to communities in need. So first of all, thank you. And for the gamers around the world, I want to tell them that you really have the power to change, even if it was a small change, even if you changed an opinion about refugees, even if you change an opinion about a certain topic that our world is dealing with, you're doing a huge change, because if every initiative, every action counts, and you have a huge talent and a huge power to reach so many people, young generations who are actually following you and following your lead. So I would tell them, please continue to use this powerful tool to be able to create more change in our communities, because this shared responsibility will definitely be a crucial way to create more change in our societies. And I want to tell them that when it comes to refugees, in games, that our message this year, that in games you often have the chance to restart and try again, right? But for us, we always say that for millions of refugees and displaced people around the world, starting over can be an incredibly difficult and uncertain process because of the situations they go through. But you really have the power to help, and we count on your support to help us raise awareness and much needed funds to help those forced to flee their homes, because no one really chooses to become a refugee. And refugees, as I said, the statistics are huge, but behind these statistics are people like you and me with dreams, ambitions, talents, and everything you can think of. So please consider refugees and displaced communities in your communication, in your day-to-day work, and let's together help make change happen. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here at Gamers Without Borders, and best of luck with everything that UNHCR is doing for the remainder of 2023.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being with you today, and thank you again for this opportunity.